This segment of ScentBlocker Most Wanted is brought to you by the Whitetail Institute of North America. Deer nutrition is all we do. And by S4 Gear, meeting the demands of nature and those who tame it.
This is a lot of work, but it pays off. We got 25, 30 mile an hour winds today. Perfect day to get out in the middle of the day and rake you a path into your inner sanctum trees that you want to hunt a core area, particularly in morning hunts. Rake you the path in, spray your boots down with TI4 before you come in and rake it. I've been doing this for years, and it's definitely a secret weapon in the arsenal. But it allows you to come a long ways into a core area of the woods pre-dawn, even in the afternoon on a still day with hardly any noise. You can get in and get out. Makes your hunts a lot more productive. It's a lot of work, but anything worth getting is worth working for.
Last week on Rack Focus, we were discussing the rut and when to hunt it. This week, the question is where.
I like to hunt food plots at the first 2 or 3 days of the season before the mature bucks wise up that we're after. I also like to hunt on or near the food plots during the rut. After that, typically I would move back anywhere from 50, 100, 200 yards off the food plots to hunt the travel corridors coming in. Sooner or later, during the rut, the bucks are going to cruise on the downwind side of those food plots, scent checking to see if any of them are in heat. Very effective. You're going to see a lot of deer, but you've also got a chance to see a mature buck that way, in my opinion.
And then one other real important thing, and Larry, you're one of the best I know at this. Pre-rut is when all of your techniques work. Your decoys, your rattling, your calling, all that works. During the heat of the rut, you can grunt your lips off, you can rattle your horns to a nub, and it doesn't matter because they're not interested in that. They're with the doe. Kind of like trying to call a gobbler off a hen. It's hard to do. But the fun part of right going into the rut, and it determines where you're going to hunt, is you can rattle, you can call, you can do all the different things that bring deer to you, and they're very aggressive then. A week or so later, you're gonna have to set up on a travel corridor because they're not gonna come to you. You gotta intercept them because they're doing what nature calls them to do.
I've rattled up deer in January before, but the amounts of encounters you have because you manipulated the deer, whether it be with a grunt call, decoy, or horns, whatever, drastically dwindles after the peak of the rut. And a lot of those bucks are so worn out after the rut, they're interested in nothing but sleeping and eating.
Yeah.
And go totally nocturnal for the rest of the year a lot of times unless you got bad weather to move.
I do a lot of whitetail hunting in open country, so those bucks are cruising, and they're cruising up the river bottoms or out the fingers, or they'll run coulees. Their travel routes are pretty important to them because they're searching for a doe. They're on their feet during daylight. They're covering more ground during daylight, and I just like to hunt the travel routes. Actually, rut out west is pretty easy to hunt on whitetail deer compared to Minnesota and Wisconsin. Where I live is actually a little bit trickier. In those states, you get a food plot or you get a food source where a lot of deer are coming to. You're not going to see the bucks out on that typically during daylight. However, they will travel the downwind side of it. They'll scent check it. They come by there. They do a lot of that kind of movement during the pre-rut anyway.
So we talk about the rut like it's this magical 3 or 4 day window, and it lasts over weeks. We see fawns born from early May, late April, all the way into June, which means those deer are getting bred at lots of different times out there. Later in the rut, I sat on an open cornfield, and a lot of guys are like, well, why would you do that late rut? And it's just to what you said. The deer are tired. They still want to breed. They still have that drive. But as you get in the later part of the rut, more does are bred. The does are going back to a normal feeding pattern. So you're going to get out in food plots and different things. You're going to get all those does. The bucks are going to come. I had 4 different mature bucks in the same field, and all they were doing is going from doe group to doe group out there, still looking, still tired. They'd eat a little bit on the way. So, being able to adapt, where you might be hunting a pinch point earlier in the rut, later in the rut, you may want to move that stand back out onto a food source and hunt the food source.
We want you to take part in the discussion, and you can at facebook.com/ScentBlocker Most Wanted.
ScentBlocker Most Wanted has been brought to you by IQ. Center the dot for the perfect shot. Block, history's toughest targets. And by Glendale, the biggest and toughest 3D targets in the universe. ScentBlocker Most Wanted has been brought to you by Winchester Rifles and Shotguns. Trust your hunt to a Winchester. Easton, expect the best. Ford, and your quality Ford dealers. The Redemption muzzleloader from LHR Sporting Arms. Made for a lifetime, not for a season. And by Gilbreth's Taxidermy, the official taxidermist of ScentBlocker Most Wanted.
None of our hunts would be possible without a lot of help and coordination from all of the outfitters, landowners, and guides that we work with throughout the year. Larry's been hunting this farm in northeast Missouri throughout the beginning of bow season. And while he can tell the rut is gearing up, he hasn't had one of his most wanted show up during shooting hours.
When I seen this buck and looked at him, I knew immediately that I'd never seen him before. But I also knew that I wasn't going to not shoot him because of it. My first buck with my new ScentBlocker Trinity suit on. And I heard him crash. He is a dead buck. Coming right out, locked on that decoy. Give me a perfect shot. Well, we're gonna climb down while we still got some light, and we'll go find him. That's what you call the Rage Extreme Tomahawk. Okay. I heard him go down, so. Well, there he is. Wait, you know, it's got to be 20, 21 inch inside spread. And First deer with my new Trinity, ScentBlocker Trinity, and it sure worked tonight. In the Rage Extreme, it's unbelievable. But hey folks, it's gonna be cold tonight. We're gonna get him taken care of, and I'm gonna show you more of this deer when the daylight comes in the morning.